Hey, Kat, how are you? Happy birthday. 12, I hear. That's awesome. Super cool. um, Here we are. Drum lesson time. Uh, Rim shot. Let's talk about the rim shot. Okay, so you did your initial feeling around for the rim shot with your left hand, and it looks better than it did last week. Especially because you seem more relaxed. It looks more like your natural stroke this week. If we remember last week, you were kind of like had this tight forcing thing going on. I still see a tiny little bit of that, so you could relax and loosen up even a little bit more. Maybe one thing you could mess around with is just maybe playing the drum in the middle without a rim shot as you normally would without really thinking about it, letting the stick kind of come off the head as you normally would, and then sort of morph it into a rim shot at the same time and maybe go back and forth between those two options so that you're sort of training yourself to feel and notice what that's like in your arm and your hand, and sort of trying to make those the same. So playing without a rim shot and then slowly working in that rim, getting some rim shot in there while keeping the same feel and motion in your arm and your hand. And like I said, it looked way better than last week, but it still looks a little bit stiff. So you could try messing around with that. So it'd be kind of like this. I'll start in the middle, and then I'll go to a rim shot, and then I'll go back to the middle, just whenever I feel like it, sort of going back and forth, trying to maintain the same motion and the same feeling. Okay, so something like that. And you can see, I was missing some rim shots for sure. But that's actually, I should probably work on that myself. That's kind of an interesting exercise. Really just trying to keep the same motion and the same feel, regardless of whether you're playing a rim shot or not. That's the idea. So you can kind of mess around with that, but I think we can sort of move forward with this, and what I want to do is put this into our very basic rock beat. And so what we'll do is we'll work at 80, and we're just playing eighth notes on the hi-hat, 1 and 3 in the kick drum, and 2 and 4 on the snare drum. But every time we have that 2 and the 4 on the snare drum, we're playing it as a rim shot, not just in the drum without a rim shot. We're shooting for a rim shot every time we hit that 2 and the 4. So it would look like this: 80, got, got. Okay, so those were all rim shots, and actually those were all really good rim shots. I pulled it off today. Those were all really good rim shots. They were all almost identical. So that's the exercise, and basically that's kind of the exercise for like the next, 2 or 3 months, in order to train yourself to be able to play a backbeat rim shot. So important, as I mentioned before, and that's the exercise. And that's what I went through when I really was fine-tuning my rim shot. That's what I did. I played that basic beat, pretty much the same tempo, day in, day out for 2 or 3 months, just fine-tuning that rim shot. Because we already know that beat, right? The beat's easy. You can play that no problem. The tempo's not fast. So technically and coordinationally speaking, there's no issues to worry about there. We could just play that simple beat and focus on getting that rim shot to happen. And what will probably happen, which is what happens with most, is that you're just going to miss, like, most of the time. And it's going to be really frustrating. And you're either going to hit the drum without any rim, or you're going to hit the rim without any drum. Once in a while, you'll get a rim shot. It may not be the greatest sounding rim shot. It might be a little too much rim and not enough head, or too much head and not enough rim. We'll talk about those subtle differences as we move forward with this, but the goal for now is to just, the backbeat, you're getting the head and the rim at the same time. And like I said, you're going to miss a lot of times. So just plow through it. You're strong. You can do it. And just realize it's going to be frustrating. And that's the way it goes. But over time, in a few weeks, it'll start to come together. In a few months, you won't even have to think about it anymore. If you're practicing it every time you sit down to the drums. And I would recommend that. Like, maybe it's like the first thing you do, or just make sure you do it, because it's all about consistency. And maybe even days where you don't have a lot of time to practice, if you could still sneak down on the drum kit and play this beat with a rim shot, even for just a minute or two, just get it in. It's so important, because it's really about consistency. And even myself, someone who's been playing rim shots forever, like, I just missed some rim shots when I was demonstrating that for you, because I haven't been playing rim shots lately that much. And it kind of goes away. So even if I get that technique, if I'm not doing it all the time, it kind of goes away. So it's just the nature of the beast. All right, so that's what we're doing with rim shots. Just be patient, realize it's going to be frustrating, and that's totally fine, but just put in the work, and in a few months, you'll be psyched, and you'll sound way better than everybody else. Okay, groovy. Paradiddles. So, I'm very impressed, and you got up to 80, which is faster than I expected, so nice work there. And I saw you mess up a couple times in there, but I can tell that you're really comfortable with it, and you totally have it memorized, because even when you messed up, you just jumped right back on it without messing up anymore. It's not like you stopped and had to regather yourself and start again. Like, you know it. You know paradiddles, which is awesome. So those little mistakes, like, no big deal. Like, you could just laugh them off as you were. It's totally cool. So, let's make this a little bit more challenging for this week. Let's go up to 85. Since you're already at 80, let's go up to 85, a little bit faster. And let's improvise our voicing based on a 4-note grouping. So, we're going to change voices every 4 notes. So, in our first 2 bars, that would be every 4/16 notes, we're going to change part of the instrument. So we have right, left, right on one voice, and then switching to a different voice, left, left, switching to a different voice, right, right, etc. So basically here, it's like every beat, because there's 4/16 notes within one beat. So every beat, we're changing where we're playing this on the instrument. So it takes a little more focus, because we really got to remember what that sticking is. And hopefully without having to read it at this point, right? And then when we get to the 3rd bar here, Again, we're switching every 4 notes. So right, left, right, right will be on one voice, and then left, right, left, left will be on another voice. So actually here we're switching voices every half note, technically. And then the last bar is just some single stroke quarter notes, and I don't really care how you play those. Play them however you want. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, and I'll demonstrate that now. So it's going to take a little more focus to make this happen, because we're switching around so quickly, and we want to not disrupt that nice paradiddle sticking that we learned. So 85, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, yeah, I messed up the first time a little bit. So it does. It takes quite a bit of focus. Cool. That should make sense. If it's like moving around a little too quick, like slow it down and then see if you can get up to 85 by the end of the week, right? Just like with everything else. But that should be cool. As always, stay loose just because it's faster and just because we have more stress because we're moving around so fast. Doesn't mean that we want to hold that tension in our body and in our mind. So just always remember to relax. That's the key, especially when things get harder. Breathe, relax, continue. Okay. Backbeat grooves. All right, so cool. That's really good work for 1 week. You got further than I imagined you would, so awesome. You were doing 4 bars of each, moving from one to the next. It was kind of all over the place, right? You were sort of like forgetting where you were on the page and sort of jumping around, right? But ideally, we're going to try to rein in your focus a little bit on this so that you're actually doing... Not that what you did is, like, not cool or whatever. It's totally cool. And actually, in a real-world situation, maybe slightly more useful. But we're building on your focus right now. So ideally what we want is starting at the top, 4 bars of that, 4 bars of that, 4 bars of that, 4 bars of that, 4 bars of that. And then if you want to repeat right back to the top without stopping and run the whole page again, that is the method. You were sort of jumping around. I think maybe you totally had these memorized, which I'm super impressed, but I think maybe you just got a little confused when you started a new beat. Maybe you thought you were playing this one, but you were actually playing this one, for example. Just as an example, I can't remember exactly what was happening, but you're sort of jumping around the page. But ideally, what we're going for is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Repeat. Make sense? Cool. And then, so we're on the ride cymbal, and we were playing on the snare with the stick turned around, right? So there's some things I want to mention there. One thing is the position of your ride cymbal, where you actually have your ride cymbal set up on your drum set. That might be something you want to consider messing around with, changing perhaps. There's a couple common places to put the ride cymbal on a 5-piece drum set like yours. One is sort of where you have it. Sometimes people will put it where you have it, but put it even lower. So it's kind of down closer to the floor tom, so they don't have to hold their arm up as high. More rock type drummers tend to like that setup. I've, back in the day, I rocked my ride cymbal in that position, but when I started learning jazz, that position was just not so great. So after going through many jazz type stuff, like, I learned to like having my ride cymbal in a different spot that's a little more comfortable. But anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. What I'll do is I'll snag a couple images of drum sets from the internet and put them in that email so you can see the two common examples. The first one was sort of where yours is, but lower typically. The second one is up higher with a steeper angle, sort of over your middle tom a little bit. Obviously not getting in the way of the middle tom, but there's usually a little bit of overlap there. And so in a way, it's kind of where my ride cymbal is, because that's where a middle tom would be. So sort of that position. But it would have to be a little bit further away, up higher with a steeper angle. Anyways, I'll grab some images and throw that in the email so you can see those two common options. There are a couple other options, but they're maybe a little bit abstract for this point. So you might want to experiment with that. Yours looked okay, but it's good to mess around because actually where you had yours is usually I don't see that. Usually if it's over there, it's a little lower, or we're putting it above the middle tom with a steeper angle. So it's worth messing around and seeing what feels good to you. I kind of prefer, if I'm playing a 5-piece kit, well, I sort of put mine in one of those more abstract locations. But if I wasn't, I would like it over the middle tom, up a little higher with a steeper angle, because it's more convenient, because it's kind of straight in front of my arm, and I don't have to do this like side kind of motion, which feels weird to me. Okay, so position of the ride cymbal, we'll mess around with that a little bit. As far as the snare goes, it was pretty good, although you weren't totally in the middle of the drum, and I think, well, I don't think, but it's kind of true. If we're doing back of the drumstick without a rim shot, it really needs to be like in the middle. It just does. Otherwise, it doesn't sound good. So, what I would do if I were you is, draw a circle in the middle of your drum with like a permanent marker. Like, it's just a drum head. Who cares, right? Something like that. Like, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches. I mean, even 3 inches probably fine. Like a 3-inch diameter circle right in the middle of the drum. So every time you look down, you'll be like, oh, I'm not in that circle. And it's going to train you to put that right in the middle, because it really does make the sound so much better with this particular way of playing the drum. If we're off center too much, it sounds bad. So yours was like kind of right on the line. It didn't sound great. It was okay, not horrible. But if you were right in the middle, it would sound way better. So that's important. I would also say hit a little harder with your left hand. With the volume that you're playing your kick drum at, and certainly the ride cymbal, which I'll talk about in a second, we want that snare drum to be louder in the mix. So just bring the stick up higher and hit it harder while staying relaxed, right? As far as ride cymbal volume goes, it was too loud, which is no biggie. We haven't really talked about the ride cymbal yet. So sort of like when we were playing half open hi-hats over here, when we went here to the ride cymbal, like you were sort of like full volume with your right hand, and it's kind of too loud. So we need to chill out our right hand, not bring the stick up as high, and bring the volume of our ride cymbal down. Not to say that we don't rock out on the ride cymbal a lot of times, but for now, usually we want like kick, snare, cymbals, not quite as much in our typical pop drum mix. Kick, snare, and some cymbals. But not like your mix this week was like, ride cymbal! Kick drum, snare drum. You know? No biggie. So just chill out your right hand. As far as where to play on the ride cymbal, let me use this as an example. So pretend this is a ride cymbal. Usually it just sort of in the middle-ish. Depends on the cymbal, but kind of in the middle-ish. Not too close to the edge a lot of times because it doesn't feel so great and it gets really washy. And then not too close to the bell because it gets very pingy and dry and also doesn't feel very good. So like just kind of in the middle, the body of the cymbal as I would call it. Kind of in the middle, okay? I think maybe you were a little bit close-ish to the bell. Not like super close, but I couldn't really tell by the video, but it kind of sounded like you were a little bit further up in here. And it's just like, it's not really the sound that we want. And it feels hard. It feels very brittle. So like just kind of in the body, we get a nice mix of wash and ping, and it feels good underneath the stick. Okay, let me play all these for you. 4 bars of each, starting at the top. Was it 80? I think you were at 80. Let's do 80. Okay. 4 bars of each, running down the page, top to bottom, controlling the volume of my ride cymbal, playing right in the middle of the snare drum, ideally with the back of my drumstick, and following this method here. As I was playing, one other thing I want to mention, my ride cymbal is this cymbal here it's very thin, and which means it's not a very loud cymbal. It's not super pingy. It has a lot of wash to it, and it's not as loud as your cymbal, for example. And not that that's like a bad thing, but as far as like stick height goes, if I were playing your ride cymbal in this situation, my stick height would probably be even less because your cymbal is louder than this cymbal. But in this particular situation, I'm actually able to rock out a little bit more on this cymbal because it's not a very loud cymbal. Okay, cool. Is that it? I think that's it. We did our beats, we did our paradiddles, we did our rim shot. Again, happy birthday. and I will see you next time. Thanks for your hard work. Adios.